What's up, friends? I'm Tony, and there is absolutely no way I can ever hear the words formula for success without being skeptical. It just turned out that this time I decided to think twice and listen carefully because I was hearing it from the investor entrepreneur that founded Bridgewater Associates almost 50 years ago and managed to consistently compete and win in Wall Street, which is one of the most competitive places there are, and he eventually turned it into one of the most successful hedge funds there has ever been. He says he has worked throughout his life out of passion without chasing money, and that money simply came as a byproduct throughout his career. And even this way, he is now one of the richest people in the world, worth $22 billion according to Forbes. You might have already realized I'm talking about Ray Dalio, and when I hear the phrase formula for success coming out of this guy, I listen closely because he most likely has something valuable to say. He wrote this excellent book called Principles, which I think I first read as a freshman back in college, and this was the first time that a book completely shifted my paradigm. Most of what's in this book sounds really intuitive, but the fact that I was reading it from someone who has had a lifetime to experiment with these ideas, has also had a lot of success with them, and wrote them down and expressed them so clearly, was completely eye-opening for me at the time. It first reinforced my belief that we all live in this shared reality, from which we all create our individual perceptions, principles, and values. If we think of reality as this terrain, and then our perceptions, principles, and values as our map of this terrain, the more accurate our map is, the better suited we'll be to navigate that terrain. Because let's say that you were walking around New York and you were trying to get to Central Park using a map of London. There are very little chances that you'll ever get to where you want to go by using that map. But instead, if you were holding an accurate map of New York, you would be able to navigate the streets of the city more effectively and get where you want to go. The more aligned our principles are with reality, the better equipped we are to making the right decisions. So reading through Ray's book Principles is like holding Ray's map of reality and how he has used it to make the decisions he had to get to the point where he is right now. He was born in the 40s, and he says that he is now in a stage in his life where he wants to pass along what he learned. So that's in part why he wrote the book Principles and is sharing it for free. You could buy it in print, but you could also read it by downloading the free app called Principles, where he has this book as well as another book of his, also a section on case studies from his hedge fund, all principles sorted out in a format that is easy to go through, and even a section where you can write down your own principles. It's an excellent book to learn more on how to live a principle-oriented life, and another book that talks about this way of looking at life that comes to mind is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, which we will for sure talk about on later videos. For now, let's look at some of Ray's principles that stood out to me and his 5-step formula to getting what you want out of life. The first one that pops up to my attention is this one: embrace reality and deal with it. It's all about learning how reality works. Ray talks about the analogy of his life being a game in which he's faced with problems which are like puzzles that he has to solve. And once he solves them, he finds a gem, which is the principle, which he can then use to aid his decision making, and whenever a similar problem comes again in the future, he can go around that problem using what he learned. The more gems he collects, the better he is and the more capable he is of facing larger problems and higher stake problems and puzzles later on. This process leads to the ongoing understanding of the cause and effect relationship that governs reality. Let's say that if A happened, then B will happen, and if A and B happen, then C will happen. He also says that people who create great things are dreamers who align their dreams with reality. And that's where this next principle comes in. Dreams plus reality plus determination equal a successful life. If you are a hyper-realist and combine this with your dreams and aspirations and then work on it with determination, that is how you will get what you want out of life. Then there's also this one, which ties to something that Bridgewater is really famous for doing, and it's to be radically open-minded and radically transparent. Being radically open-minded contributes to fast learning and effective change. Since learning is the feedback loop of trying something and then observing the results, if you are radically open-minded, you're not deceiving yourself from the meaning of those results, and that means you will learn from them more quickly. And then when it comes to transparency, it's all about eliminating the fog in which people don't really know what others think and what's really going on. Transparency forces issues to the surface, which is crucial if you're looking to address them. It's also about honest feedback and voicing your concerns, which is something that Bridgewater is really well known for taking very seriously. Then here's another principle. pain plus reflection equals progress. In here, it is crucial that you go to the pain rather than avoid it. The way that Dalio puts it is that you change your psychological reaction to it so that what was painful can become something you crave. You eventually come to realize that pain is actually the signal that leads to progress when you face it head on instead of avoid it. Then there's this other principle that I of course was going to point out, which is meditate. Meditation, according to Dalio, and this is something that I completely agree with as well, leads to enhanced open-mindedness, higher level perspective, equanimity, and one of my favorite ones, creativity. It helps you slow things down so you can act calmly even in the face of chaos. The way Dalio puts it is that you're just like a ninja in a street fight. And now let's look at his 5-step process to get what you want out of life. The first step is to have clear goals. He talks about prioritizing here, saying that you can have virtually anything you want, but not everything you want. So you'll want to have a clear picture of the things you want and then make a decision on which ones you'll focus and spend your work time on. After you have these clear goals and you start to go after them, it is inevitable that you'll start to stumble into problems. And that's where step 2 comes in, which is to identify and not tolerate the problems that stand in the way. This will likely bring you up against your weaknesses, which is something that we all have, and how you react to the pain this causes is going to be up to you, but it's going to be crucial to go on to the next step. Because another principle that Dalio has is to not avoid confronting problems because they are rooted in harsh realities that are unpleasant to look at. But once you have identified the problem, the next step is to diagnose the problem to get to the root cause. In here, you will need to be calm and analytical so that you can accurately diagnose your problems. Instead of proposing a solution right after identifying the problem, we need to take a good look at the problem so we can identify the root cause. Because that is what takes us to the next step, which is design plans that will get you around the problems. This is when, after having identified the root causes of the problems, our to-do list would come in. So that's when you would write down your plan. And there's actually another principle that says to look at a plan or design a plan as if you're writing a movie script, in which you would visualize the steps through time and who would do what and when. And once you have this plan, the final step is simple. It's simply to do it. The last step is to push through to completion. Great planners who don't execute their plans go nowhere. This is where good work habits play an important role and where you need to establish clear metrics so you can measure and identify if you're following the plan. After completing these steps, then you would look at the results that you have and then you would go through the process again. To evolve quickly, you would have to do this fast and continuously, setting your goals successively higher. Dalio says that with practice, you will eventually play this game with a calm and unstoppable centeredness in the face of adversity. And then that your ability to get what you want will thrill you. So as to recap, we first saw that Ray compiled all of the gems that he has collected throughout his life and put them together in this book called Principles, which you can read for free in the Principles app. We also saw how we can use a principled way of thinking to use as a map and navigate the terrain of reality more effectively. Then we went over a couple of Ray's principles that I found valuable and I thought you might find valuable as well. If I had to highlight anything there, I would say that associating pain with progress will completely change the game because you will then start seeking it instead of avoiding it. And I will also highlight the meditation principle because it does enhance your open-mindedness and your creativity. And it is something that has completely changed my life, which I also have a recent video that I upload that you can check out either up there or I'll put a link in the description. And finally, we looked at Dalio's 5-step process to get what you want out of life. First, you need to set clear goals. Then you would identify the problems. Then step 3 is to diagnose those problems to get to the root causes. Step 4 is then to design a plan to get around those problems. And the 5th step is to push through to completion. And then you would repeat this process, and the faster you do it, the more you'll progress. Remember that what I talked about here today is only an overview of some points of the book, and if you want to learn more and see the details, I would highly recommend reading it. There's also this great video that Dalio and his team created, which summarizes the ideas on the book in 30 minutes, and I'll put the link again either up there or in the description. So there you have it, some things that we can learn from one legendary investor. I also wanted to remind you that if you're looking to stretch your brain and learn a completely new skill that is extremely valuable nowadays, I have a Skillshare course where you can learn computer programming by learning Python in 30 days by spending 15 minutes each day, with rest days every 4 lessons, daily exercises, and even a final project where you get to build your own Python application. Again, it's only 15-minute bite-sized lessons each day, and it's meant for complete beginners or for anyone who has learned to code in the past and is looking for a structured refresher. The link is in the description if you want to check that out, and also get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare and support the channel. Skillshare also has a lot of other courses that you might want to check out and might be interesting as well. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below with your thoughts and questions. I'm posting weekly videos now, so if you're enjoying what I'm doing, make sure to hit that bell button so you get notified whenever I post a new video. But until then, I hope you stay curious, and I'll see you next time.